Welcome back to the Modern Motherload. I'm Lili, and I'm here with my co-host Maggie. And Maggie was kind of laughing at my setup. So for any of our YouTube viewers, which we are on YouTube now, you'll see a little bit of a change in my background because I needed to get outside. I actually tried to go in my backyard, and my Wi-Fi signal was not strong enough for me to record in my backyard. So I'm sitting on my front porch and it's not too hot of a day outside. And I feel like I've been inside the cave of my house for so long the past couple days that I needed to get some fresh air. And we have the AC on. Do you guys have the AC on right now?
No, no.
Yeah,
I mean, does
we
that really
didn't. We
surprise you that we don't have it on yet? I turned it on for a few hours one evening over the weekend because the humidity just got to a point where I was like, I can't handle it. I was in a mood.
right.
I don't know if my hormones were going. I don't know what it was, but I turned it on, not crazy cold, just enough to like suck the humidity out while my husband was out. And that night he's like, oh, we should open up. And I said, oh, no, the air's on. And he looked at me, he goes, the air's on. And I said, don't. I literally said, just don't. It was humid. No, we're not going there. And
Right.
so he looked at the weather for the night. He looked at the current temperatures. He looked at the humidity, and he said, I'm going to turn the air off and I'm going to open up. And the past couple of days has been great. Today, it's
Yeah.
definitely kind of sticky out, and I think we're going to hit in the 90s in the next couple of days. So I have a feeling we're going
Okay.
to be closing up and turn the air back on. But no, I've been sitting in my office all day working,
Mhm.
and I have the
Mhm.
window open, and there's a little breeze. Plus, I have a fan on my desk. So as long as I'm not like moving around like crazy, it's been perfectly comfortable. Um,
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
think it's too hot. I mean, I guess I hear what you're saying about the humidity. I've actually been your husband in this situation. I have not wanted to turn the air on. I'm like, come on, we only get so many days, at the beginning
oh,
of
yeah,
summer and then as we transition to fall where you can just have like the windows open. Like I need to let the house breathe, like open up all the windows,
hmm,
let everything breathe, get the fresh air. My husband, I think one of those nights you were talking about when it was like a little bit too hot,
yeah.
he was like, I need the air. Like it seemed like it was making him like angry, like testy, we'll say.
Well, and
So I was like,
that's
okay,
what
fine.
happened to me. That's what
That's what
happened to
happened to
me
you.
because he
Yeah.
was he was out doing
Hormones.
something, yeah. And I had all the kids, and it was like I said, like Thursday, Friday night. I don't even know. And I was
Yeah.
like, I need to not. If there's one thing I can regulate, it's turning on the air. And that was the first time we've turned it on all season, and it was only for like 4 hours, but it was enough to help snap me out of my mood, make me feel a little bit better, and do it just like, yeah, just take care of me for a few minutes
Hmm.
and not worry about anybody else. But can we go back to the fact that I did my last daycare drop off today? Like,
I know you texted me that this
well,
morning, and were you like a little bit like emotional?
I was very mixed feelings because, like,
Okay.
yay, we're moving on into a new chapter, and
Sure.
he's super excited. Tomorrow, we're
Mhm.
going to go to my brother's and go swim in his pool. He bought a house that has an in-ground pool, so we're going to go kick off summer at Uncle's house.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's going to be weird not going and dropping off. We've been dropping off at that school for like 6 years. They've kind of
Hmm.
family, everybody's kind of become family to us there. We'll miss the teachers and the staff, and it's a bittersweet milestone to hit.
Yeah, 6 years is a good long time. I mean, I remember when we left the daycare where I sent my oldest and my middle child, and and we had said like we weren't going to send our daughter there just because she never had to go to daycare. And we were only there for, I guess, what, like 3 years. And even just 3 years felt like, yeah, it just felt like this is the person you've seen every morning for the
Yeah.
past 3 years, and you've even trusted the care of your child. And it just felt like a big deal. I remember giving her a hug. I remember crying. And I think it's also the idea that this transition for your child of like, they're not little anymore. They're moving
Right.
on. And I'm no longer the mom of like little babies and toddlers and preschoolers. And I'm moving into this next phase of my own life as well. Well, there are two things I wanted to talk about today that have been floating around my head. But the one was the fact that I have started my nursing journey. I have started my prerequisites, as we mentioned in, I guess, 2 episodes ago. And
Hmm.
I was telling you about, so I'm taking this anatomy and physiology one class. And I think anatomy and physiology on the surface is just a lot of information. It's just, a lot of memorization, just taking in all the information, all about all the structures and the systems, the body, and how everything works.
Yeah.
And I've always been told by everyone, or I remember when I was in college and had friends who were in this pathway, oh my gosh, A&P, it's so hard, blah, blah, blah.
It is. It's because it is so hard.
It is, it is.
And I think it's so hard until you get into practice and you see how things work and relate, and you can align it to
Hmm.
symptoms and processes. And it's not just rogue memorization, right? And I think that's the
Right.
piece when you're learning A and P, you don't have that symptomology, you just have
Hmm.
the structure. And
Hmm.
I was thinking about you the other day, and I was like, wow, gosh, how did I do this? And now I can talk about this, that, and the other thing. But when I
Right.
talk about it, I'm thinking about a disease process, or I'm thinking about symptoms and different ways that things work.
Right. Well, you've contextualized it. Right now, it's drinking from a fire hose of just taking in information and how much am I retaining? And I'm sure even if I asked these questions to you or my other nurse friends, like you probably wouldn't remember all of these little things
No.
unless it was like your specialty. Like you
Yes.
probably are going to remember a lot more things related to obviously pediatrics and that sort of thing. Our other friend, who works in stroke care, she's going to know all about that. It's just like any other job, or just
Oh,
like when I
yeah.
was a teacher, like, should I be teaching every subject? No. Did I have to have a baseline knowledge of an education to be a
Hmm.
teacher? Yes, but that's not my specialty. And what I've come to learn is that I stupidly had signed up for what's considered a hybrid course. So most A&P with a lab meet twice a week, and I think it's over a longer period of time. And for this one, we only meet once a week, and it's only over 10 weeks. So whereas I have an exam on 4 chapters tonight, maybe in the regularly paced class, you'd have an exam on 2 chapters. I really set myself up for success here by like throwing myself into the fire and
Yeah.
seeing if I can survive. That's all well and good. And there is no second chance here. I need to pass this class with like a B or higher the first time because I'm paying for this all out of my own pocket. I'm having to reduce working hours. So my income is like going to be way cut, especially when it comes to the fall. And it's like, I got to do it now. I don't have time to
Yeah.
waste and I'm not getting financial aid. And so I was thinking about all of this to bring it back to why this was like on my brain, besides the fact that it's occupying a lot of my
All of your brain
time.
space right now.
Yeah, yeah, and make me stressed. Is that I have seen several posts on some of the Facebook groups that I belong to, that are like moms, working moms, whatever, of people asking, "Hey, I want to go back to school to become a lawyer, or I want to go back to school and become a nurse or a teacher or whatever it is." I have seen many posts recently from people
Hmm.
who are our age, in our age range, probably late 30s, early 40s, who are looking to majorly change their careers. And that's obviously a huge deal. I see in their post the fear and the hesitation of, am I too old to do this?
Hmm.
Is it going to be worth it? And I wanted to talk a little bit about that just from my perspective. And I think that you can even share a little bit of your perspective from working for a major health system to now primarily working for yourself, for your own business, and
Hmm.
also going into school nursing. The thought process and the things that you've had to manage as you decide to change careers. I'd never thought I was going to become a teacher, but then I ended up being a teacher for 15 years. And during that 15 years, there were many times that I thought to myself, I'm sick of this. I'm tired of this. I don't make enough money. And I always talked myself out of it because I think there was a very strong fear of the unknown.
Oh, yeah.
But I have been settled in this thing that I know how to do. And to be honest, I was really good at it to say, I'm going to be vulnerable and I'm going to change everything. But oh no, I can't do that because I need to make an income. Or oh no, I can't do that because now I have kids that I have to support too. Or oh no, I can't do that because I have this schedule and I'm used to that. And how am I going to go back to school as someone who's also made that career change or transition? How do you manage the self-talk, like the self-doubt? What are some of the thoughts that went through your mind as you underwent this transition? Because when we started this podcast, I think we were more fresh in it, and that was something that was really in our minds. And now I feel like you and I have had some space from that initial change, even though now I'm going through another change, to think and reflect back on what advice would we give ourselves in the
Yeah.
past.
And it's interesting you asked this because I had a conversation with someone recently, actually one of our regular listeners, who has an opportunity to change jobs and same field, uh, different company, cut in hours. And there's that hemming and hawing. And the one thing I said was go ahead and interview. I had a mentor one time tell me you should interview at least once every 6 months, whether you want the job or not, to keep your interviewing skills sharp.
Okay.
Which I thought was interesting. It kind of keeps you abreast of what's going on in the field too. So I shared that, and I was like, "You have no harm in it." But I think one of the big things to think about is what is going to make you happy. What have you learned from prior
Mhm.
experiences? What have you learned you don't want? What have you learned you do want? What fills up your soul? So for me, I love doing the operations and looking at healthcare and using all of my skill sets in my consulting. When I do my per diem school nursing, that fills my soul. Actually being able to use my clinical skills and do that. And sure, I have other passion projects that fill my soul too. This being one of them, and my presenting at large conferences. But there's always that negative self talk or that
Yeah.
imposter syndrome that someone's going to find out I'm not really good at this. Why did they hire
Right.
me? They could have hired somebody else. Why would they want somebody who's a new nurse at X age when they could
Mhm.
have somebody who's younger and went through a 4-year nursing program versus an accelerated program? And, what I would say to that, because that's probably some of what you're thinking,
Sure.
is you come with the life experience that 4-year new grad who's 15 years younger than you doesn't have. You're going to
Mhm.
come with a bedside manner and approach that 22-year-old new grad doesn't have. If
Mhm.
you do end up going down the path of IBCLC or midwifery, you come from the life experience of being a mother,
Mhm.
having breastfed children, and you can come with that personal experience, and that connection that you can bring to your patients is
Mhm.
so powerful.
Oh man, I gotta just snap that clip so that way I have that to pull from for future
but
interviews, Maggie. Thank
but
you.
I know, like, and I know that from when I'm talking to people that I'm mentoring or I'm coaching and trying to
Mhm.
figure out, what lights their fire, what makes them happy and feel like they're making improvement. And it's seeing that
Yeah.
holistic view. Your book knowledge is great. Your experiential knowledge is so much more powerful. When I'm
Mhm.
doing my school nursing and I'm calling a parent and I'm saying X, Y, and Z, and then I say, look, I also have a child who's 9 years old. We've experienced this, and I understand what you're going through.
Right.
That's powerful to be able to relate to your patients um, in a different fashion. So to me,
Mhm.
it's how can you relate? It's getting over yourself and that fear of failure.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be perfect. Um, because I think sometimes when we strive for perfection, we're putting that imposter syndrome on ourselves, and we need to
Mhm.
stop doing that in order to truly be successful in whatever it is we're trying to be successful with. But you need to
Yeah.
figure out what's going to light that fire.
Yeah.
And
I
you've
love
been
that. I love,
and you have been sitting on this since you
yeah.
were in school the first time, however many years
Yeah.
ago, right? So you know that
We won't
it's
mention
that
how many years.
right. So you know that that is a passion that you have. It is a
Hmm.
fire that was lit many, many years ago. And
Hmm.
you let your own brain sort of get in your way and you excelled at what you did, right? You were great. Now you have
Hmm.
another opportunity to rewrite the future and you're seizing it by the horns and you're going for it. And you've got a whole cheerleading squad on your side.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I love that. I got to save all of that. I knew that you're the perfect person to talk about this because for our listeners who don't know, Maggie does speak at conferences, and one of the topics that you talk about is imposter syndrome. And so I know that it's something that you have spent a lot of time reflecting on. And
Mhm.
I know that especially, and I'll only speak from my own experience, but I think that my feelings are probably universal to those other moms that I said were posting in those groups and saying, am I too old to do this? Will it be worth it? First of all, I don't think that we're ever too old to do anything.
No.
And I have been very lucky to have the model of my own mother who has shown me you're never too old to do something. I mean, this woman got her master's degree. She has multiple master's degrees. She has her PhD, and she is continually pursuing more education. And she climbed a mountain last year, or I
Like
guess
the literal
2024,
mountain Kilimanjaro.
literal mountain. And so she is a reminder to me that you're never too old. She's always said you're only as old as you feel or as you think. And she got all of these degrees after she was a mom, after she had raised us when she was in her 50s, 60s, and beyond. We won't say how old she is, but I have always had her as a model of that. You can go back and do something new. And she has had many different careers and jobs over the course of her life. She's been in academia. She's worked for a nuclear power plant. She has trained people on speaking English, and she's had her own business as a writing coach and a ghostwriter. She has also worked back in the days as a lactation consultant as well, before you had to have the certifications and all that sort of thing. So it's a very good model for me, but I do think that where this fear comes from is this idea that when we imagined adulthood for ourselves, um, I think there's this perception that like by a certain age or stage, you should be this far in your career and you should be at this level and you should be making this much amount of money and all this sort of stuff. And to say, hey, I have been working for 15, 20 years to advance my career and I actually hate it and I'm burned out. And like you said, I want to be happy. Um, that's really hard because it's feeling like you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but at the same time, we've talked about this before. You only have this one life, and what do we want to show our kids of like, hey, if something's not filling you up, maybe you need to figure out why, like what's going on there.
Well, I think that's it. And it's going to be to, I noticed a shift in myself after I had been settled in my business, in being happier with myself and being a better mother because I was happier in my career. I get to set the boundaries of when I shut down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not constantly on my phone checking my email. I'm not, working late into the night unless I want to. Um, and sometimes I'd prefer to work later in the night and enjoy my day because of whatever's going on, and I get the flexibility to do that because somebody's
Mm-hmm.
not telling me what my schedule is, and there's not that expectation. For the most part, I have to abide by my
Right.
clients' needs, right?
Right.
um but that is something that, I mean, you remember when I first started all of this, I was feeling guilty that I wasn't in an office 8 hours a day because that's what I had been used to for so
Yeah.
many years. And it's, having that flexibility is has changed how I'm able to approach being a mom and being with my
Life.
family and
Yeah.
life. And I was wrote to my great aunt recently, who's 92, 93 years old. It was her birthday, so I wrote her a old
Oh,
fashioned
wow.
note on paper and pen, and updated her on everybody's, how everybody's doing.
Hmm.
And she sent me a note back and she said, I just don't know how you do it all. And that's the response that I get. I don't know how you do it all. Well, I do it all because I do it when I want to on my terms.
Hmm.
And I get to do it, if I'm feeling like I really need a boost, I'll go hunt out what I know is going to give me that boost. And it makes me a
Hmm.
better parent. It makes me a better spouse and a more productive um, founder, CEO, consultant,
Right.
whatever it may be. And it's taken a lot of self growth and reflection to be able to learn that that's what I needed. And I
Hmm.
think that what helped me get there was having a really good coach who helped hold the mirror up to my face. And that's one of the things too that I'll repeat it till I'm blue in the face. There's something different between a coach, a mentor, and a sponsor, right? So your coach is somebody who's going to hold the mirror up to your face and make you work really hard and do that introspection and figure out what's going to work for you, what's not going to work for you, but you have to do the work and you have to find the tools to do it. A mentor
Hmm.
is going to show you the path. They're going to help give you those tools. They're going to guide you down that path and they're going to say, you really should do this. If I were you, I would take that approach. And your sponsor is probably the most powerful person. And that's the one who's going to speak positively and promote you when you're nowhere near them. They're going to,
Hmm.
put your name out for a job offering. They're going to speak highly of you for, a professorship or whatever it may be.
Hmm.
So, and of course you need your cheerleaders too, but those are your three
Yes.
people I think that have helped me get to where I am, be comfortable with where I am, and also my propensity to always say yes and not know the word no.
Well, and that's a good, but that is a good thing to know as well when you have to turn down things because
Yeah.
there might be something else waiting in the wings that you're not even aware of yet. And like
Yeah.
choosing the things that make that, and that's something I've had to learn over the past like 2 years is even like sometimes I'll just jump at something because for X, Y, and Z reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, I'm like, I don't know if that was the best choice or the best fit, but it's all it's learning. And to go
Yeah.
back to what you said, one of our good friends, when we were on the NurseCon at Sea Cruise, I said to her, she was telling me all the things she does. She has multiple podcasts, she has multiple Instagram pages, does this, that, and the other thing. I got to shout her out, Rosa Hart. And
We love
I said to
Rosa.
Rosa, I love Rosa. I said she's such a cheerleader for other people and for women too, and I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, I said, "How are you doing all?" I mean, she's traveling all the time. She's supporting different causes and what have you, and speaking on podcasts and getting interviewed on TV and all sorts of stuff. I said, "How do you do this?" Because she also has kids, and she just said to me, "Well, I don't do it all at once." And I was like, there it is. It's sometimes we can step back and look at someone else and be like, oh my gosh, they do everything, but
Right.
nobody is doing it all at once and nobody's doing it without support.
And there you go, your support. So you're going back to school, starting a new career path, which some could argue it's not completely new, right? There's a huge component of nursing that is education and teaching and advocacy. And you've been doing that for, again, X number of years. So, and some of that is what I love most about nursing. And
Hmm.
everybody thinks automatically that nursing is, um, you know, working in a hospital, taking care of patients who are sick in a bed. And it's so much more than that,
Yeah,
as our network would show.
so
And
much.
We know,
Hmm.
I know so many nurse entrepreneurs and authors and advisors and coaches, and every one of us has a component of educator in our current career trajectory, whatever it may be. But I think having that
Yeah.
support person, having your husband there who's willing to pick up the extra childcare duties, who's
Yes.
willing to, cover while you study for 20 hours straight. Um, that's huge. And that's the only way I'm able to do what I do, is that I have a husband who's willing to flex his schedule to move things around so I can
Hmm.
travel several days or a week in a row.
Yeah.
And without those supports in place,
Hmm.
us being able to figure out what makes us happy and then actually do what makes us happy would never ever be possible.
Sure. For sure. And yeah, I appreciate you giving them that shout out because I know sometimes on this podcast we can uh, talk about men and how they're the problem, but we do have both very supportive husbands. And
Yes,
I'm so thankful for that because my husband has always said, and I think I do the same for him, but I've always, he's always said, okay, what do you want to do? And all right, we'll figure it out. We'll support it. And
yeah,
he's really excited about this change. He said that he feels like I'm more fired up about this than anything else that I've really tackled over the past 2 years as I've undergone this transition period.
you are. I will agree with him on that.
I think that the things that I take away, and I hope that anyone who's listening who's thinking about this and thinking about a career change, or, maybe it's something in the back of their head, is that the things that you really need are just the will and desire and the passion, like you said, that fire
Yep.
of really figuring out what's going to light you up. The second thing is, like you said, Maggie, is having that team behind you, whether the team is a coach and a mentor and a sponsor and the cheerleaders and the support people. You need all of that behind you as
Hmm.
well. And if you feel like you don't have that, there are ways. Figure out ways. Maybe you are not married,
Yep.
maybe you don't have a partner. Is there family? Are there friends who that would be willing to, take your kids, bring the kids over, figuring out what you can do to make that transition possible. And the third thing I think that's really, really important, although it seems like maybe not the biggest thing, it's not the biggest logistical thing, but is just addressing that negative self-talk and like
Yeah.
addressing the stories that maybe you've told yourself about why not you, why not now, and figuring out that is this something that if you don't do it that you're going to regret, and kind of going from there.
It's that conversation with yourself, but it's also there's that anxiety, and I come back to my friend who was talking about a new job opportunity. She said, it would be a cut in pay because it's a cut in hours, um, but is the experience worth it? Is the work environment worth it? And
Yeah.
is the time that it's going to free you up to be with your children when they're young in this precious short period of time worth it,
Hmm.
to be able to align more to their schedules and to be a more present
Yeah.
parent? And, yes, the money's a big part of it. Taking a pay cut is not something I take lightly. I've done it a couple
Hmm.
times, and I'm making a fraction of what I used to make as a director in a large health system. Um, can your family survive on that? And if the answer is yes from a financial standpoint, and yes, that you're going to be a better parent and a more present human, and better feeling better in your own skin, then I guess the question is the risk worth it, or are
Hmm.
you still stuck in your own brain?
Yeah.
Um, and I have to say, if I wasn't laid off 2.5, almost 3 years ago, I probably would still be with that large organization because of the fear of the unknown. And I was
Yeah.
comfortable and I knew, but man, what a crazy turn of events that were put at me and tested me and pushed me to emotional breaking points, and then some. But man, do I feel like I came out better on the other side.
Oh, 1,000%. I think 1,000% you did. And I think that that's true of a lot of people our age, because we were always told, like, you just got to work hard and work up the ladder, and women can do it all and have it all. And I think to your point that truly, something's got to give. And I think so many women are feeling burnt out right now because they have been trying to do 100%, have a perfectly clean home, be the perfect employee, be the perfect spouse, the perfect mother, and something gets affected, and it might be your health, it
Mhm.
might be your sanity, it might be your marriage, and it might be the relationship with your kids. So I think it's really just weighing out what are the things that are your priorities and what's most important to you as well. And sometimes that means taking a pay cut.
We were never designed to do it all. We were
No.
never meant to do it all. And it was
No.
interesting. I saw something the other day that, the somewhat similar thought has crossed my mind before, but really, um, you know, a kid's school day is designed for the stay-at-home mom. It is not designed
Mhm.
for the working parent at all. It was
Mhm.
designed for 1940s, 50s, somewhat into the 60s. One working parent and one at home. And
Yeah.
so just trying to accommodate a school schedule,
Yeah.
uh, talking, and you forget trying to do it all, just trying to
Yeah.
accommodate the school schedule while you're working
Oh
is
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Because my kids don't go start school until like 9 o'clock, and
No,
they get done. They're getting off the
right.
bus between 3:45, 4 o'clock. So yeah, none of it adds up.
Yeah.
That could be a whole nother
That could be a whole other episode, but
for
I
another day.
yeah, to my point, I think it's just, is a change in schedule, is the change in lifestyle worth it to make you a better
Yeah.
person, a better mom, a better employee, um, and just happier. So I think, kudos
Yeah.
to you, Lili, for recognizing what you want, how you
Hmm.
need to get it, finding the team to help support you in all the different ways that we can support you, and don't let your head get in your own way.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's change gears here for the end of the episode. The second thing that's been bouncing around for me is because we are entering summer and we are entering our summer schedules. I know we talked about the summer a little bit. We talked about our camp plans and vacations and all that sort of stuff. But just on the day to day, what is happening with you guys, especially as you've mentioned mommy camp next week. You don't have to get into the fine details, but like, what is that looking like for you next week as you are balancing working and then having all the kids home? Because I think that there are a lot of listeners who are doing just that, right? Not
Yeah.
everybody sends their kids away to camp and not everybody is off in the summer. So,
Yeah.
how's that looking for you?
It's going to be a cluster.
The real answer.
The real answer. So I am planning on working in the mornings,
Okay.
either from here at our house or from my parents' house, because next better part of next week, the kids and I will be at my parents'. So
Okay.
I will be working in the mornings. So they're going to have to
That would
occupy
be
themselves.
like 9 to 11, or what's the timing there?
Probably like 8 to 11. I've scheduled some 8 o'clock
Okay.
meetings because I feel like before the 9:30, 10 o'clock hour, I don't feel so guilty planting them in front of a movie,
Okay.
if I'm going to be honest.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so I scheduled some earlier meetings because now I don't have to do daycare and bus stop drop off. And then in the afternoons, we'll goof off. I will monitor my email, and then I will probably, um, work some in the evenings because I can, again,
Okay.
work from my parents' house, just to balance and so that I'm providing my client with, what they're paying for.
Yeah.
At the same token, that'll allow me to be free for the kids. But it goes back to our previous conversation, right? I get to make my schedule. I've blocked my calendar. It is important to me to be able to spend the time with the kids. And I know that the individual who owns the contract, for
Mhm.
my client, agrees. He has always said, time with your kids is really important. So I know that as long as I'm giving them the quality of work that they're looking for and used to getting, we'll be okay. And it's the same thing tomorrow and Friday. I'm going to have all three kids, but I'm going to be working in the mornings, and then we will get into our fun stuff.
Okay,
And
so
then
that's the setup is
yes,
focused work in the mornings. Kids can entertain themselves, whether it's movies, TV, reading, coloring, whatever it
yes,
is. And then you're really kind of monitoring email on your phone, but also with the kids in the afternoons and then catching up in the evenings,
exactly,
whatever is left over. Okay. And
exactly.
it's super helpful too, I think, like what you just said. having a boss who understands that dynamic is
Yep.
huge. And to me, it's always a big red flag if you have a boss who either doesn't have kids or isn't in that season and or just doesn't get it that like
Mm-hmm.
you have multiple full-time jobs essentially when you are a parent as well and it's the
Yep.
summertime, and so that is super helpful. I really appreciate the conversation that we had today, Maggie, and like your words of wisdom and advice. And I truly appreciate how you have always just been such a cheerleader for me. And I think that that's why this works because we just have always just supported each other
Yep.
and we have created a group of people who also are just cheering everyone on in whatever endeavors they want to pursue. So I really, really appreciate that. And I appreciate all those people that I talk to. They know who they are. They're listeners. They're our dedicated listeners. That's another group I want to shout out to before we go. I want to say thank you to our dedicated listeners. I see you. I see the numbers. I know that you're listening, even when we are not regularly on every week, even when maybe the topic is not something that you're into, whatever it is. I want to say thank you to those people because you don't know how important that is. We're making our little pennies.
Are we? Oh,
Pennies. I'm like, oh, those pennies will offset the cost of the new mics that we got. Not really, not really. Maggie, any last final words for this episode?
no, I think I said it all. Keep your head up, and for everybody, change is scary, but oftentimes change is good, especially if it's going to make you a better person and a happier person.
But we're not okay.
That's okay. At least we're talking about it.